Hi, I'm Travis Luther, and today we're joined by attorneys from Watson and Associates. The nation's interest in federal government contracting has significantly increased over the years. Large and small businesses alike are actively seeking new opportunities to increase revenues. The U.S. government is by far the largest customer of commercial services and products. Although a very lucrative venture, there are complex regulations and laws that contractors must face. In the current administration, there is a mandate for more scrutiny on federal contracts and performance. This puts current contractors in sensitive situations. Here with us today is Theodore Watson, managing member of Watson and Associates, LLC, a government contracting and business law firm. Theodore, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So what types of services do the governments often purchase or contract for?
Travis, the government purchases about every service or product that you can imagine. Everything from construction, IT services, engineering, bottled water, just about any possible thing you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to think about it, for example, if you think of an Air Force base, internally that base has to function separate and distinct. It has to have laundry services, has to have janitorial services, it has to have landscaping services. So if you kind of use that analysis, you'll see how the government functions. And they have to use just as many commercial services or products as the commercial sector does. So if you think about it that way, you'll see why the government pretty much purchases just about anything.
Mm-hmm. Now, we all know we're in a tight economy. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that things haven't been as great as most had expected lately. Has this put any kind of limits on what government's purchasing or a squeeze on the possibility to gain government contracts?
You know, that's an interesting question. And that's kind of a question that's going across the nation, both for contractors and people looking to do business with the government. My analysis and research tells me that government contracts will probably increase. Looking at the larger picture, what Congress is actually doing is downsizing the public servants, if you will, the typical civil service employees. And they're bringing in contractors to do a lot of that work. For example, when I was in the military, you had military people that were cooks, and landscaping, etc. Well, what Congress has done long-term is downsize the military population because long-term they would have to pay the military people as they got promoted, increase in salaries, and then when they retire they would have to pay them for life. Well, from the business decision you can see why the downsizing of the long-term effect will bring contractors in up front, even though Congress is willing to pay them a lot more, but in the long term they're going to end up saving money.
Mm-hmm.
So given that, I think there's a good argument to show that the requirements for government contracts will increase. With that said, there's the agency now are tasked to look at the contracts that they have in the forecast to determine which ones of those are necessary, etc. The money that has been retracted from that has now been refocused to energy and those types of contracts. So you're not going to see much of a drastic decrease in government contracting.
What are some of the hurdles or maybe unexpected surprises a possible contractor might face when trying to acquire one of these government contracts?
One of the things that I have seen personally, I'm a former government contracting person, ran the small business programs, is that a lot of the contractors, especially in today's economy, they understand that the economy is tough, but they're not making the appropriate adjustments to parallel themselves with how the agency are selecting bids, which drives the other problem. I have seen over the years that contractors do the same things over and over again in their bid proposals. They are lacking the understanding of how to be more competitive. What are the regulations that the contracting officer and source selection officials have to look at? It's an alignment that I believe that both sides are missing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so maybe at your law firm, what you're able to do is monitor those changes in those RFPs and make sure that someone's not just continuing to send out redundant information, but that they're actually responding to a bid in a way that positions them in the best possible way to acquire it?
That's probably one of the best analysis that you can apply. What I have done personally, and again from my experience of working on the federal side and have worked with source selection teams, is that I've used that information now in addition to watching the trends and the changes in the economy to be able to help the contractors readjust, reposition themselves, and write proposals that help the agencies select them. Again, the old way of doing things, if you don't get the results, you have to change what you're doing. And I'm finding that a lot of contractors are struggling with the proposal writing phase of it.
I've heard some language, team agreements or joint ventures now in government contracts. What do those mean? What's the significance of that?
Well, I think the best way to look at it is, the government is buying commercial services or products. The regulations have to mirror, if there's an expectation that businesses have to come and do business with the government, there are certain tools in the federal acquisition regulations. For example, you asked about teaming, joint ventures, and those types of things. FAR 9.6, which is Federal Acquisition Regulations, FAR 9.6, allows or provides for these tools that the commercial sector is used to operating under. For example, small businesses or companies in this economy, by the way, they will not have employees, say for example in a construction company, they're not going to have electricians, plumbers sitting around when there's no work. And because of the economy now, a lot of the companies are downsizing. So what the teaming and joint ventures, I'll talk about teaming, a small business can look at a larger contract, which it probably couldn't handle on its own, use a teaming agreement with another company that has the capability, and together they join forces and they target a specific contract.
Okay, well thank you, Mr. Watson. I appreciate you coming down this afternoon.
Thanks, it's been a pleasure.
If you are a business owner and you're considering looking into government contracts, or you filed a government contract and you have some questions or concerns about that process, I would encourage you to reach out to the law firm of Watson and Associates. They can be reached toll-free at 1-866-601-5518, or you can visit their website online at theodorewatson.com. Again, Mr. Watson, thank you.
Thank you, Travis.